Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a brief discussion on the issue of Indians and Moors and Hebrews and the issue of nativity. There are a number of questions related to this issue of nativity, and it's couched in different terms, but it all comes back to this. And so we're just going to look very quickly at what some of the issues are and some of the questions that I have related to how people are constructing this idea of nativity. Many people don't realize that there are multiple types of laws, and you also have multiple philosophies of law. What we are going to be looking at is this contrasting dynamic that's going on with respect to man-made or colonial law and then natural law. And so you have one idea of nation that is rooted in man-made law. And it's about having a space, a land space that's controlled by an overarching governmental entity. And then you also have this specification related to American Indian groups and this idea of nation. What's noteworthy when you look at this is that there is a focus on history, tradition, and language versus ancestry or nativity. And so I am calling into question this formulation of nation based upon man-made law versus natural law. So this idea of nation, according to this dictionary definition that we just looked at, it is very much rooted in a socio-cultural construct. In other words, it is a construction. It is not something that is a natural outgrowth. However, when you look at the true root of nation, the true root of nation is biological. It is ancestral. It's about birth. It's about genealogy. It's about the genesis. And you can see this when you are looking at the etymology. You see that it's related to a race of people, because you're looking at the root word of this nation. It's talking about ancestry. You can see where it has been added, this idea of a language, but the very word nation, this idea of nativity or natal, this is all related to birth. Hence the idea of prenatal or postnatal. So this is talking about birth. Where were you born? In what context were you born? In what family were you born? It's all about birth. And so this challenges, this very directly challenges this man-made legal construction of nation and this man-made legal construction of nationality. For legal purposes and asserting rights as indigenous people, it is understandable that there would be this focus on this man-made legal construct related to nation. However, that man-made legal construct of nation is something that is being superimposed onto indigenous people. It is not necessarily consistent with how indigenous people originally understood nation, because again, nation is about nativity. And so you have a situation where what has been imposed on indigenous people is this man-made construct of nation that is completely inconsistent with birth. And what it does is it undermines matrilineal dynamics also, because it's always understood if you are birthed by someone that you belong to them. However, this sort of flips all of that on its head and provides this idea that you can reconfigure nation and nativity based upon someone sharing features with you. So if they look like you, or they talk like you, or they share certain customs, then they can actually sort of be grafted into a family versus being born into a family. And so nation is really about family. It's about clans, larger clans, extended birth networks. And so when you have this superimposition coming from a colonial mindset, you really change the very essence of this idea of nativity or nature or the Genesis or a nation. And this is something to really keep in mind as people are formulating these ideas about nationality and nation building. You hear certain individuals say that you have to declare your nationality or you have to be brought into a particular nation. That may be something that is going on now in the world with borders and things like that, but that may not be consistent with how indigenous people around the world have understood this idea of nationality or this idea of tribe or clan or children. And so there's a question about birthright. When colonization took place, birthright was removed in terms of the Indian identity and Indian nationality, and it was replaced with these constructs related to blood quantums, constructs related to the right language and the right customs. And so instead of a baby being born into a nation, into a family, into a tribe, a baby was born into a situation where a baby was going to be evaluated based upon blood quantum, based upon a baby's relationship to someone who spoke a particular language or who held certain customs. This is inconsistent with natural law. A baby is born to a mother. A baby is born to a family. And there is no process usually whereby a baby enters a family or a baby has birthright based upon being accepted by a parent or being accepted by a family or accepted by a clan or even a nation. And so simply by being born in a place or born to a particular group of people, those dynamics make a baby have a birthright. And so down through time, when a person is born, they carry the lineage of all of their ancestors. And so the birthright goes right back to whatever rights those ancestors had. And so the baby's identity is directly tied to the identity of the parents and all of the ancestors. And so that's where identity and nationality come from. And so where this is coming from is the idea of natural law. In natural law, you have rights and you have justice that are applied to all human beings, but they come from nature. They do not come from other human beings. And that's where that birthright dynamic comes from. A person is born to a group of people. And this is not something that is determined based upon law. It's not based upon custom. It simply is. It's a fact of nature. And I'm offering that this is something that people need to consider as they are talking about this whole idea of nationality. And this is distinct from whether someone has some rights that may or may not be respected based upon the law of this particular land. And so those are different dynamics. Whether someone actually belongs to a Native American or American Indian or indigenous group of people is based upon biology. It is not based upon legal determinations coming out of positive law or coming out of any other form of law. And this is just a reminder of this idea of nativity or natal. It's about birth. It's about begetting. It's about who do you belong to in terms of your genetics. And you can see at the top, it's about procreation and familial and tribal groups. It's about being born. It is not something that you can be voted into or sort of voted off of the island. You always belong to your mother. You always belong to your ancestors. And whatever your ancestors were, that is what you are. So, as long as your ancestors were indigenous to this land or indigenous to whatever land they were indigenous to, that makes you a descendant of that. That is a part of who you are, and it can't be taken away from you. It's not something that can sort of be negotiated in terms of reality. It either is or it is not. And so, a question to consider for those who are identifying as American Indians specifically is whether there should be a focus on this man made law dynamic, or whether there should be a focus on natural law or whatever the law was of the people. And so, if the Choctaw had one way of understanding nation, should there be respect for that original understanding, or should that original understanding be usurped by the colonial imposition of what it meant to be a part of that clan? And the European construct of clan is very clear. Clan, clana, it's children. And so it is a very natural law based theory, a very natural law based understanding of what it means to be family, of what it means to be clana, what it means to be clan, tribe, nation. And so the question is, do you think it is important to focus on the natural understanding of nation, or the social construction of nation that came with colonialism? Remember, knowledge is power. Take care. See you soon.